Hello everyone, we are entering into Hollywood. Actually, we're entering into Universal Studios here on the 101 deep in Hollywood on the Cahuenga Pass. We are headed out to Universal Studios, so come and join us for this exciting Universal Studios tour. But this is not like a normal Universal Studios tour. To give you a backstory to this fascinating Hollywood's oldest studio, so come along for the adventure. You're not going to want to miss it. The story of Universal Studios actually starts back in the year 1883 when Carl Lamelli's mother passed away when he was 16 years old. Being grief-stricken from his mother passing away in 1884, he decided to emigrate from Germany to the United States. His father paid for his passage to come across the Atlantic Ocean and gave him an additional $50, and when he arrived here in the United States, he settled in Wisconsin, in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and became a bookkeeper. And he was very good at being a bookkeeper, but he decided bookkeeping wasn't for him. And so after 20 years, in 1904, he decided to go into the movie business, sort of. He bought a Nickelodeon theater, but at the time, all the movie industry was owned by Edison. Yes, Thomas Edison was the owner of all the movies in 1904. He owned the movie equipment, he owned the movie projectors, he owned the movie screens. You couldn't buy anything if it wasn't for Thomas Edison. The problem was the prices were rigged, and Carl Laemmle and his friends were not having it. Parking is $35 a day, and they're open from 10 to 7, it says. So we're definitely going to be doing the general parking because we cannot pay for private parking, which is $75. That's a little bit too much for us.
And there's preferred parking in the middle, split the difference at $55. But still, we'll go the so-called cheap route.
Exactly. Always take a picture of where you park when you park here at Universal Studios. We are in Curious George 1P, and so we will be walking through City Walk. So in 1912, Carl Laemmle and his friend, other Nickelodeon owners, were fed up with this system where Edison controlled everything. And so what they decided to do is they got together and they formed what was called the Independent Movie Association Productions, and they started making their own movies. We are here at Super Nintendo World, just in the City Walk area, where we're gonna look for a power band, so we don't have to wait for it in line later. Did you find it yet?
No.
Oh, they're up there in front. Power band, and what is this for? What's this for?
It's for the Super Nintendo World. Basically, you can connect to your app and sort of like play little games inside the park with this thing.
Okay, so we're gonna test that out in the park.
And it also has an additional function of being a sort of amiibo for your Nintendo games.
Oh, okay.
Basically you can scan this on like the console and it'll give you like a little power up inside the game.
Okay, there you go. Looks like we're gonna have to go through security clearance here. It's pretty easy, just an X-ray scanner.
To assist with quickly entering the park, please place all belongings in the bins on the moving belt and proceed through the metal detector when directed by the security.
Tip about taking a picture in front of the Universal Studio Globe. If you go to the side or the back, it says the same thing, and you won't be in the way of other people taking their photos. Well, we're officially on the white carpet treatment here.
Maybe by the end of the day it'll get crashed.
We are going to talk some history, give some insider tips, and see if a 314-pound man can ride rides without restrictions, because Universal Studios is very strict about fitting into their ride vehicles. But let's get on to the show. So in 1912, Carl Laemmle decided with a group of investors, of Nickelodeon investors, that he wanted something independent. So he founded what was called the Independent Movie Production Studio in New York, and they started making their own films. Here at Road Drop right now for Universal Studios. We'll see if getting here at Road Drop helps us out in getting through some of the rides faster. We don't really know, but we're gonna find out. Right after rope drop, we headed to the magical world of Harry Potter, which is set in the world of Hogsmeade. This land is very well themed, and a signature attraction there is called the Forbidden Journey. Is amazing.
Oh, there's the car.
Yep, there's the car from the Whomping Willow. But the ride system can be a tight squeeze. It is an over-the-shoulder cage system, and some women do have issues with the handles coming down over their shoulders. There are tester seats available in lockers. I did test the tester seat. I weigh 314 right now, and I did fit, so we'll see how it goes when we get to the ride vehicle. The theming in this ride is amazing. They really did a good job. There's the beads. Yeah, always. They cheated. Oh, and there's the stairs to Professor Dumbledore's office, right? Is where the potions and spells.
From now, we'll find out Quidditch. Of course, we'll leave it with magic. The speller, a world-class Quidditch player.
I'm not imagining these spells, you see.
Ron, you're making it snow again.
Why does that always happen? Come on, you keep it.
I just got off of Forbidden Journey, and it was a great ride. It's so detailed in there, and I got in. My son had to push down the chair a little bit, but I was able to get in. My son got in with no pushing at all, so that's your trick. I used the outside booth because that's what they said would help us out, so there you go. I'm going to do Flight of the Hippogriff, which is of course reenacting that scene where Harry Potter gets to fly with the hippogriff, so we're going to try that out right now. It is a litter Mouser type roller coaster, and it was the only ride that they took 2 staff members to check to see if I properly fit. Cabin right there. Yep, that's Hagrid's bike, and here's his cabin. And there's the ride. It's just a little mini roller coaster ride. Not a very big one, but it's fun. There's always something new at the parks, and next year will be Fast and Furious coming in 2026. Now entering into Springfield. Springfield is the home of The Simpsons being the cartoon family that for 40 seasons now have been going strong. It's a veritable institution, the longest show.
American animated show.
Yeah, you heard it from AJ, longest American animated show, complete with Krusty Land. Krusty Land used to be the Back to the Future ride, but now it's an adventure with Bart Simpson and Krusty the Clown. So you can go check that out. And then here in Moe's Tavern, they do have the Flaming Moe. So having their own movie studio and breaking away from Thomas Edison was great, but Carl Laemmle needed more space. And so in 1915, specifically March 3rd, 1915, he came here to Universal Studios. Back then it was called the Cahuenga Pass, it wasn't Universal Studios. And he founded the Universal Studios here in 1915. And then I go over here to the studio lot tour, which is appropriate because, as I was saying, immediately after he opened up the park in a grand celebrity, he immediately allowed people to come here to the park, just anybody, open public, for 15 cents. You could get a tour of the Universal Studios lot, and that included, according to my grandfather who was here back then, he told me your 15 cent also included lunch. So you'd get a box lunch and you could come here on the studio and you could be as loud as you wanted to back then because the movies were silent back then. There was no noise, so it didn't bother the directors at all. So my grandfather, when he was a kid, he would come down here and he'd hoop and holler to me, and he would go and watch his famous film stars, and then later on he would watch them in the movie theaters. Of course, times have changed, and now movies do have noise and sound and music, and so we have to take a more controlled method, which is the studio lot tour. We are on the studio tour in the early morning, and in the early morning there is just a walk-on for the studio tour. That's your tip for the day. Although we'll have to see how long until they actually leave. Will they make us fill up the tram? That's the question. My favorite part of Universal Studios Hollywood is the tram tour. Since the very beginning, Universal Studios has been opening its gates to show people how movies are made. There isn't another theme park out there that does anything like this the way that Universal Studios does this. Universal Studios has produced countless movies on these lots. When the studio first started in Hollywood, it was not very well known. In the early 1900s, entertainment came out of New York, not California. But Carl Laemmle had a game-changing idea to get people to come over to California. He promised his actors credited roles. In giving actors credited roles, Universal Studios created the Hollywood star. These days, the galaxy of movie stars is great, and we love them all.
Thank you, sir. I have another. Real swordplay.
You go with me over with you.
What's the good news, buddy?
The tour is always different, yet there is some familiarity if you've been on the tram tour a few times before. On this particular tour, we got to pass by the Hitchcock Bungalow, which I love because Hitchcock was such a great entertaining director. The opening lots of the studio are probably my favorite part of the tour. The buildings, of course, are all fake facades made with just wood and foam, but they can be dressed up to look like anything anywhere in the world.
Hollywood! And you know what? You're not going to need your 3D glasses for now, but please keep them
There, I got to see in person props from the movies, photos from behind the scenes, original illustrations from those movie posters, all this stuff. I had an early affection for movie monsters. I was always fascinated by the magic behind making movies, but I fell in love with zombie movies and monster movies as a young kid. My world that I come from is skateboarding and graffiti and comic books. You always have to pay.
The movie Jaws, directed by Steven Spielberg, came out in 1975, and the Jaws attraction at Universal Studios came out that same year, making this white shark scene, as fake as it looks, one of the oldest attractions made for the tram tour. It really hasn't changed much since its first premiere back in 1975. My favorite part of this scene is pulling away. You can see Bruce, that is the name of the shark, swimming backwards so it can queue up for the next tram. If this scene looks familiar to you, it was probably a little beach town in another movie. The most famous being the fictional town of Cabot Cove in the show Murder, She Wrote, which I always felt must have been the most dangerous place in the world, because every week there was another murder to solve in this little town. My favorite part of the tour is the part called Western Six Points, where all the westerns were made. This is one of the oldest parts of the studio, and I can kind of feel the connection to my grandfather, who as a kid would come to these very streets and cheer on his favorite Western movie stars. These obviously came from the movie Back to the Future, which is a Universal Studios film. But did you know that Michael J. Fox was not the first Marty McFly? It's true. Before the movie came out, an actor named Eric Stoltz filmed almost the entire movie. But the producers really wanted Michael J. Fox in the film, so they filmed it all again, and the rest is history.
It used to look like 60 years ago, around the time that Steven Spielberg would come and take the tour. And you're seeing picture cars on either side of the tram. Anytime you see a vehicle or in a movie or TV show, it's what we call a picture car. You probably recognize these cars from some of your favorite Universal productions.
The tour is supposed to end with an attraction called The Fast and the Furious, but it wasn't working when we went. Not a big deal. I still suggest you go on the tram tour at least one time per visit.
We are now headed down into the lower lot area. Lower lot area has the Transformers ride, Jurassic Park. Also gives you some great views as you're going, I think, one of the world's largest escalator systems. Across the new Fast and Furious ride is going to go across and over the escalators.
Yep.
Hold the handrail and face forward at all times.
These escalators are crazy. There is alternative trams if you are disabled to come down. You don't have to come down the escalators. but you have to make reservations for those trams if you're disabled. On the way down, we saw some posters for Wicked. I bet that movie gets an attraction soon. It definitely was Universal Studios' best movie for 2024. The first ride we did in the lower lots was called Transformers. I like the Transformer ride, but I think Transformers in general are losing popularity because the line was empty for the most part. I think we escaped with the Allspark, no problem. Okay, it's time to go and experience the world of Super Nintendo World. So we'll see what it's like. The big deal in the lower lot is the Nintendo World. The theming in this land is over the top. I love how you enter the land via a pipe portal and you are instantly confronted with the world of Mario World 3. The main attraction, of course, is Mario Kart. Do this either first thing in the day, if you have an early pass, or later in the afternoon after everyone has already waited hours in line. The line is very long but very interesting. The ride system is amazing, with these special visors that click in and give you a virtual view. I learned how to grab the mushrooms. Oh, now I get it. Did you like it? Of course, everything ends in a gift shop, always, all the time.
Always.
Yeah, power up.
If you have a Magic Nintendo World band, there's a lot of other things that you can do in this land. After defeating Bowser, you can go to another secret place where you face Bowser Jr., but only if you have the magical band.
Okay, we had to have a wristband for this thing, apparently.
Yeah, because it's like a endpoint to a little thing.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Basically, the whole storyline.
We defeated Baby Bowser, was it? Bowser Jr. And AJ got the magic mushroom and finished his app. So that was good for him. The thing to note about this area is if you do not have a wristband, there's only really one attraction for you here. It's the main Mario Kart. You don't need a wristband for the Mario Kart ride, but everything else here, defeating Bowser Jr., finding the secret question marks, that's all wristband based, and that costs you at least $45. Yep.
Next up was the Mummy Ride. This ride is a high-speed roller coaster ride that goes forward and backwards. As far as roller coasters go, it wasn't very scary, but the ride vehicle is a little bit tricky if you are tall because it has an ankle lock restraining device.
I just got off the Mummy Ride. I was worried that I was not going to make it onto that one, but I was able to make it on, so that's good. So far I've gotten onto all of them. The last one to conquer is The Secret Life of Pets. I don't know about that one, but we'll see how it goes.
The last ride in the lower lot for us was Jurassic World. The seats on this ride are a single lap bar restraining system, so there really wasn't an issue of getting on. The only real issue with this ride is how wet you get. All I can say is they must make a lot of money selling ponchos on this ride. There was literally a trash can dedicated to just ponchos at the end of the ride.
It's like we're walking down the streets of France, but actually we're walking to Super Silly Fun Land.
Back at the top of the escalators, there are two more rides to face. The first ride was Despicable Me. In this ride, you are zapped by a ray gun and turned into a Gru minion. The ride vehicle is once again a single lap bar system.
which isn't really needed, but I guess it gives you more of something to hang on to the 3D movie part of the ride. And they do good theming here, so. And once again, into a gift shop. Oh, and there's the Secret Life of Pets. The last ride I was worried about was a ride called The Secret Life of Pets. This ride is a very simple darkroom ride where you play the part of being a puppy wanting to be adopted. It is very slow and has some fun special effects, but be warned, it has the most restrictive ride system in the entire park. If you are heavy like me, definitely try the tester seat in the front to the left behind the greenery wall. I got on the ride only because my son pushed down on the bar for me. Tested the Secret Life of Pets. I was able to get in, but I think I'm going to need my son's help again on this one. We'll see how it goes. Not an easy ride to squeeze into.
Hey, you in the back. No chewing the furniture. See, this is the kind of thing that won't get you adopted. People do not like to have their stuff chewed.
Listening to an assistant from AJ, I was able to make it, so we're here on the ride now. The last thing we did in the ride was go to see the Kung Fu Panda Theater. Not much of an attraction, but I did love the rumble seats. It was kind of like a massage chair they have in those pedicure places, but instead of having my toenails painted, I saw a really bad Mike Myers impersonation. Here in the movie memorabilia, you can get actual movie memorabilia, signed copies, and you can get all sorts of other stuff here. Lots of Back to the Future, Jaws, the classics, E.T. merch. We got all the Wicked merch here.
Oh, it's in like the...
It's a Lego version.
Oh, I forgot the name, but they have like those...
The food inside the park was too expensive for us, so we decided to go out to the food court at the City Walk for dinner. The food at the City Walk was cheaper than in the park, but the City Walk is not as cheap as a place to eat. At $50 for 3 people, that was the most expensive Taco Bell meal I have ever had in my life. My only consolation was that they did let me use my Taco Bell app, so I at least got some Taco Bell extra credit dollars for that. I sure hope you enjoyed this tour of Universal Studios in California. We are definitely blessed to have the opportunity to entertain the world, and I hope you were entertained in this video, and we will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.